Okay. Graphing exponential and logarithmic function. Now, we're going to focus on two specific ones. The exponential function we're going to work with is first just base 10. And just to get an idea of how these two relate to each other, we'll set up a table of values. Okay. You may already know how to graph this guy right off the bat. We want to see how they relate to each other. Where's that line? There you go. So we'll get a little bit of a table of values. We'll have some x values and some y values here. X and y values here. Okay. I guess the very first one we'll start is I'm just going to take -2 when x is -2. So when we're talking about when this exponent's -2. -1, 0, 1, and then 2 is not even going to fit on our chart, but that's fine. We'll just use it to get an idea. Okay. So in the very first example, this would give us 10 to the power of -2. Well, to evaluate that without a calculator, it becomes 1 over, yes, exactly, which is 1 over 100, which is 100th. So at -2, we're looking at a value that is extremely close to this x-axis here. Okay. When we do 10 to the power of -1, we're looking at just 1 over exactly. Okay. So a little closer, but still very low, especially in how much room we have to work with. 10 to the power of 0 is going to give us what value? 1, exactly. So all of our exponents, unless they have some type of transformation to them, are all going to go through that one point there on your y-axis. 10 to 1 will give us, yes, excellent. And then finally, 10 to 2 is going to be 100, but that's not really going to fit with what we have. So this thing is going to continue to go up, and I'm going to do my best, and it's going to continue to go left, but it actually never really touches our x-intercept here.
Right.
Okay. So this is our horizontal asymptote. Okay. It's never going to end up touching this thing here. Now, our logarithmic function is going to have almost like an inverse effect on this. So in other words, it's like taking this graph and folding it on a 45-degree angle. So what's going to happen is we'll actually try to use, I don't know if my calculator here has the logs. Do you have a calculator with you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We'll actually put a table of values for a log function also. So I'll do this in red. F at x is equal to log base 10 of x. Okay. And we'll do the same thing. We'll set up a quick table of values so we can get an idea here. So let's talk about at -2. Our -2 value, when we plug that in for our log base 10, what is it going to give you on your calculator when you go to do it?
What?
Can you do anything with it?
No.
No, that's right. It's not going to work because what happened here is we've had an inverse flip, right? So because this is inverted, our new horizontal asymptote is at what value? Or it's no longer a horizontal asymptote, we should say. It's now a vertical asymptote.
Right.
Okay, so we now have a vertical asymptote. In other words, saying that nothing to the left of this is really going to exist. Okay, so that's what's happened to our asymptote now. So there is no values at, there are no values at -2, -1. Everything's going to start over here. Okay, so we're going to make a shape that kind of comes along this way. So instead of doing those, we can't actually use this x value of -2. Okay, we have to use an x value. And we can use extremely small x values if we like. One of the ways we can take a look at this is looking at our values in our exponential function. The actual y values and the x values are going to essentially invert each other, right? So one of the first ones we'll have, we had a value of 100, 1 over 100, and -2. So if x is at 100th, y is now at -2. Yeah, and all we did was we took this value here, oops, this value here, and we inverted it. We flipped them back around, okay? So when we go to draw something like that on our graph here, 100th is extremely close to our y-axis, and y at -2, so we're somewhere here, right? And this is essentially the relationship between this one we drew here and this one that we drew here. They've been inverted, right? Same idea with our next one. 1/10 and -1. It's going to do the same thing. Our x value now becomes 1/10, and our y value is now -1 still. Still very close, but still -1 is here, and that's roughly 1/10. next value we have of 1 and 0, so we're going to flip that. Our new x value is x at 1, y is 0. Okay? And then we're going to be left with 10 and 1. So 10 and 1 is already here. And the next one we know doesn't even fit. So again, making roughly this shape, but it's just been inverted from what we had before, and it runs along this as a vertical asymptote. So a little bit different from what we had before because of the way it's been inverted. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about transforming them and how this is going to affect our vertical and horizontal asymptotes. Okay? So I'm going to pause this.